Josh, let's delve into another scenario. I know you have a lot of experience working with leaders. What advice do you give leaders on how best to open up a town hall or a team meeting? And I know that varies depending on the situation, the objectives, et cetera, but anything you want to, just general advice you want to share?
Yes, I think at its core, a town hall or large engagement where you are the leader, of course, follows the same rules as any other engagement, that you have to focus on the why, what's in it for them. And that can sometimes get lost because another temptation is sometimes to dig into the things that are important to you as a leader. You say, oh, I'm really proud of the accomplishments that we've made. Over the last quarter, we've made these kind of gains. I'm really proud of Nancy for, innovating in this kind of way. And when you're speaking to many people, you have to average out the why. You have to say, okay, well, I'm speaking to, my company of 5,000 people, 10,000 people. What is the thing that they universally care about? And that's going to require a certain amount of research, a certain amount of reflection. But once you get to there, you want to start at that point. A few years back, I was working with an executive who was going through a bit of a rough patch. And he started off his town hall, I was working with him in the same way. He says, I really want to congratulate everybody. It's been an amazing year. And I stopped him. I said, has it really been an amazing year? He says, well, not really. I said, I don't think that you're going to be able to pull that, not going to be able to throw that blind on them. Why don't you acknowledge by say, hey, I know that this last year has been really rough for us all. And I know that we've had some layoffs, and I know that that really means a great deal to you all. And I want to address that loss, and I want to talk about why that's hard. And I also want to talk about how we're going to move forward, right? Because that way you build the bond. Because the greatest thing that leaders need from people, and the thing that they should be trying to obtain in a town hall is trust, because that's going to retain or stem attrition. That's going to increase engagement, increase productivity, is when people feel a sense of belonging and trust in their leader. And that should most of the time be the focus of those kind of engagements.
Gosh, you just described such a powerful element of coaching to how you really challenged him. Has it really been a great year? Yeah, thank you. That's such a really great example. And it also reminds me something we talk about as it relates to how to connect with a very diverse audience, representing cultures from all over the world. And one of the powerful tools is stories that have universal themes that people can relate to no matter where they are in the world, what their background is, etc., such as love and hope and fear. We can all connect to those universal themes. And I also think it's so important what you said, Josh, about one of the key things you're trying to achieve as a leader is to gain that trust. And if you're not authentic, you're not credible, you've lost it at the outset. Very good. Catherine says, in the case of the PR company working with British Rail, how would you weigh the risk of angering the clients versus the impact? Really good question, Catherine.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really comes down to know your audience. This was a huge risk. Obviously, it was a calculated risk, and I do know they got the business afterwards, but not immediately. They had some very cross people, but that was kind of the point, because they did realize that is how their audience, customers like myself, were feeling about their service. So yeah, it was a risk. I'm not recommending you all go out and trash your reception and don't give visitors enough chairs, but in that particular case, it worked. So you have to know your audience and take that call.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do think that, in like anything, no risk and no reward. That impact in itself is risky, and trust is risky, and to play it safe, especially within the case of an opening, yields you a certain degree of success that will be moderate in comparison to a more risky, bold take.
Yeah. And particularly in sales, you don't always want to tell them what they want to hear. Sometimes you have to do that. You have to show them how things can be different and challenge them on the status quo. So, it's a tricky one.
All right, let's talk about one more scenario that I'm sure is relevant to a lot of our audience members, and that is how to effectively open a presentation being delivered to decision makers, to the C-suite, for instance. When it comes to effective openings, what are some important considerations, Sarah, in those situations?
So this is an area that we at PowerSpeaking have done a lot of research. So I'm very confident in saying when you're speaking to executives and you're pitching an idea, they want you to get to the point. They do not want you to entertain them. They don't want long openings. They don't want huge stories, because they're all there sitting there thinking, what do you want from me? And what impact is that going to have, that decision going to have on the business? An opening should be no more than setting it in context. Last time we met, we discussed X, problem X, and today I'm here to propose a solution. Get straight to it. What is your solution and what's the impact going to be on the business? But I wouldn't spend a long time with a grand opening. It's not about you. It's about the decision that needs to be made, and you don't want to waste executives' time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Does that resonate with you, Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. Executives have such precious amounts of time. There's so many people vying for attention within any given day. And in the same way, you still have to build relevance. You still have to let them know you're about to suggest has a lot to do in terms of granting that executive a certain degree of success. Fastest ways to do that is say, hey, I know that one of the things that we're working on right now is this, and that's why I want to talk about this. That conversation doesn't need to last more than 2 minutes. Then, of course, if there's follow-up questions, you can present the piece of data, you can tell that story, you can give that anecdote, but you want to let them know what it is that you're suggesting and why it's worth listening to.